Hello, everyone. I'm Alex, and welcome to episode 12 of Two Gays, One Episode. Today, GoatJesus slash Mikel and myself will be finishing our discussion on episode 24 of Neon Genesis Evangelion. And as our podcast resumes, the two of us are discussing the scene where Kaworu comes over to Shinji's place for a sleepover.
I appreciate that, we get a little insight here into Shinji as well, because we've never really heard him talk about his teacher to any significant degree, and he really confides in Kaworu and into us, gives us a glimpse into his feelings about his dynamic with having been abandoned by his father, and kind of seems to be working out his feelings in a somewhat productive way in this conversation about it, where he's just kind of speaking plainly to him about this traumatic event of being kind of abandoned and left to be raised by his teacher. And I don't think we need to see him and his teacher interact at all. I know the manga did that. Yeah, but
Oh boy, I'm so excited to learn more about Shinji's teacher.
But it's just interesting that it's oh yeah, I was left to some professor to basically raise me.
The main thing is he wasn't raised by Gendo.
Yeah.
That's really the only important aspect of that, is that Gendo abandoned him.
He never saw his teacher as a father, which is interesting to me as well. It's just I lived with this other person for years, and it's just a footnote in my life. That's kind of, it's just an interesting thing.
I think it was right after Yui died that Gendo abandoned him. Because if you look at the scenes where Gendo left him at the zoo or whatever, he's literally just he's tiny. He's a little boy.
Yeah.
So
he's been living with his teacher for almost his entire life, a decade, and and he hasn't grown to see him as family, this professor.
He was only 3. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that goes without saying. I think the professor's not an important character. We don't need to meet him. That's so weird that the manga was here's Shinji's teacher, the breakout character.
It showed that Shinji was living with the teacher, and the teacher had their own kids, and basically just didn't even care or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this implies that without needing to show it, right? You could imagine that same thing just based off
true
of the way he discusses this. So I like it. I think it builds Shinji's character and his relationships in a very subtle and brief way that implies a lot without saying a lot. It's kind of good.
It does. Yeah, it's not my favorite Shinji scene in that respect, but it's still really good. So
yeah,
we have
cello scene,
and then we have
still.
Oh, the cello scene's good too. I was thinking of when he.
I'm saying the cello scene is my favorite type of this type of writing, but. Which I think
where Oscar comes in and claps.
Yeah. Well, he speaks
scene.
To playing the cello, which is double.
That's literally exactly what I was thinking
motivation.
of. He's I just practiced the cello because no one told me to stop. I piloted the Ava because no one told me. That's exactly the scene I was thinking of. That is the perfect Shinji scene, I think.
Yeah,
that was written by
it is the
Satsukawa,
definitive
allegedly.
Shinji scene.
Might have been Anno. I'm not sure.
But it's kind of similar here. I think Satsukawa wrote this stuff too, but yeah, it's a.
He didn't write this scene in the bed. He wrote a similarly structured scene, but the dialogue was different. So Anno took it and ran with it a bit here, I think.
It really speaks to Shinji not easily connecting with other people, probably because of neglect, and so it's extremely significant that he is connecting so quickly and significantly with Kaworu here. It kind of all ties together that way. So
it does, for sure.
Yeah. Kaworu was born to meet him. I was really born to meet
Kaworu
you,
thinks he was born to meet Shinji. There's a lot going on there. That's a very heavy line. It's also very ambiguous because I'm not sure exactly what he means by that. But obviously he
was that in the original. It was not Shinji. In the original script, the original draft,
no.
Right? That's an Anno edition.
Nope, that's a Anno edition. So.
Does he mean
Also, we totally skipped over the best thing that we should have talked about. The bath scene is allegedly based. I forget where we got this from, but it's based on like an experience Ano had where he was like hanging out in a bathhouse and Ikuhara showed up or something.
Yeah, Ikuhara and him were at a bathhouse together. That's what it's based off of. Yeah. That's it. I think he said it in an interview with June Magazine, because Ano was directly interviewed by June Magazine, which is a BL boys love yaoi magazine, and he said Satsukawa has a way with writing homoeroticism. I directed him towards adding the swimming stuff because it's based off of a bathhouse situation where I had a experience with Ikuhara. I think he said that directly in an issue of June Magazine.
He didn't say, he was not vague and said I had an experience with Ikuhara, because that implies something a little stronger. I think he just said we had an in-depth conversation or something. He was not like, man,
he just said,
me and Ikuhara, we had an experience at the bathhouse.
I meant that more vaguely. I meant to say it's like it was based off of a night that Ikuhara and I had together at the bathhouse or something. It was something.
That's even worse. That's even worse. And for those who don't remember, Ikuhara is the creator of Utena
and Sailor Moon, the anime
he's
adaptation.
Not the creator of Sailor Moon. He was one of the producers.
He was the showrunner for the
Sailor
anime
Moon R.
adaptation. Yeah.
Yes, part of it. And he's genius. He's brilliant. He's wonderful. And he might have had a quickie with Ano in a bathhouse. We're not sure.
He was like, "Oh, Hideaki, your ears are not so elephant-like. You are." I'm sorry.
I love your scraggly beard.
Your scraggly beard and your way with hair curl.
The way you forget
curls.
to shave every 3 days is just so attractive.
Your proportions are very Sachio-like. Anyway, no.
Oh my god.
The female voice actors pointed that out in the Ano documentary, that his proportions are very angel-like.
What?
Yeah,
that's so rude.
It is kind of rude.
That's so rude.
But that's what I'm making fun of, though. I'm not slandering Ano unprompted, okay?
You're just quoting someone else who's slandering
Ano unprompted. Yeah.
His close coworkers, who he might have or might not have like sexually harassed. We're not sure about that either. There's a lot of Ano information in this. By the way, we don't know any of this. This is all hearsay.
It's kind of true. I mean, I think the Ikuhara point is at least more. It's a one. We kind of do know the source for that, so it's not as as hearsay.
We sourced our rumors, which we didn't verify. I've
read the original June Magazine interview, but anyway.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's just really funny that the Shinji scene is based on Nano and Ikuhara. So I don't know.
There's a note here that says that no, let's talk about the Kaworu Seile stuff. So
okay, I hate Seile, by the way. I don't hate Seile. I don't like Seile very much. I think Seile is really stupid every time they show up. And so the director's cut has more Seile, which the show did not need. It did not need more Seile. So there's a really beautiful scene, actually. It's very well animated, very cool. It's like a misty morning. Kaworu's standing on the statue that he appeared on initially, and he's suddenly surrounded by like this illusion of the Seile gravestones, sound only.
It makes no sense.
2001 Space Odyssey pillars. This scene makes no sense. It's a huge plot hole.
The gravestones as well only have appeared in like the dark room where there's projections and stuff. Like they are literal holograms.
Literal holograms.
Literal holograms. And
how is Kaworu communicating with them?
So Kaworu beams up or whatever into his, I guess, his angel powers and is able to create an angelic hologram or whatever that only he can see, but the Sele Council is also somehow able to connect with. But also, they appear as the stone tablets that are sound only, even though Kaworu knows what all of them looks like, and they have no reason to disguise themselves in this particular moment. It's so dumb. It's like
Lawrence Keel just has psychic powers. He's like, "Hello, Kaworu. I am communicating with you from afar."
But only with audio. But only audio only.
Audio.
I've turned off my psychic hologram like projection of my body. I'm like
say only with these grave pillar holograms.
This was not in the original airing episode. This was not in the original.
It tells us almost nothing. It tells us almost nothing new, except that Kaworu is an agent of Sele, which the original episode implied strongly anyway, and also that that Adam is in Gendo's hand, which is a humongous plot hole, because at the end of the episode, Kaworu is surprised that Lilith is in Terminal Dogma, but he already mentioned that Adam is in Gendo's hand.
Yeah, the body of Adam is in Gendo's hand, and he thought the body of Adam was down in Dogma, and like that, yeah, so it's just a... This whole scene makes everything worse. I don't think it was... I think it was better that it was left out if it was written originally. If it was written after the fact to lead into EOE, they forgot clearly some of the plot points going on here, and they should have never added it. It's just weird. Like, this whole thing.
I think they just wanted to confirm that Kaworu was a Sele agent. I think that was the main point of this scene. I think it was like, oh, people don't understand what Kaworu's about. Okay, let's have a scene where he talks to Sele, so that we know that he's like a Sele agent.
And then Kaworu does this really funny thing where he like looks back at Misato, and like,
that's Misato's the coolest moment.
Like, dang, did he see me? And it's like,
did he see
you know me? What? Whenever I watch that scene, it reminds me of Spider-Man 3. With James Franco looking back and winking at Tobey Maguire before disappearing. Like,
the most serious movie ever, with the most serious role ever, the Harry Osborn from Spider-Man 3. That is my favorite Harry Osborn, though. It's Troll Harry Osborn from Spider-Man 3.
It reminds me of like Kaworu being a troll here, because he's just like, hey girl, I see you, or whatever.
And then it's like, she's like, he's talking to himself. He came out of here in the middle of nowhere to talk to himself. What a weirdo.
Even though his back is completely turned to her, and she'd have no way of reading his lips or understand that he's talking to himself whatsoever.
Such a pointless scene, but very pretty.
It is a very pretty scene. It is the worst scene of the episode, and arguably in my bottom like worst scenes of the second half of Evangelion, like, period. But whatever.
So weird. If you want to know what the other 9 are, he's going to do a YouTube video on
top
it
10 worst scenes.
Top 10
Neon
worst
Genesis
scenes in
Evangelion.
the second half. No. In the second half of Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's going to be a BuzzFeed article.
Number 10. Number
10.
Shinji on the rooftop with Kensuke talking about something.
Number 9. That scene where Kensuke calls up Shinji and is like, I didn't get to be an Eva pilot. Well, bye. And then appears only one more time after that.
Okay, so Misato confronts Ritsuko.
Yes, she goes to the nerve room. In the script, it described as like a room with bars, but in the final episode, it's just a big black room with the nerve logo in the background.
Oh yeah, in the script, they also talked about like Ritsuko was bound like BDSM style.
Oh yeah, she's like BDSM leather like bindings or something to keep her from like tearing out or something. Yeah,
I'm glad they took that out.
I think this is much more effective, even though in EOE she's in a regular jail cell. But I do like this, just her sitting in a chair in the room where 25 and 26 are set, where characters just sit in chairs and talk about themselves.
Yeah.
It's very effective. It's very like indie theater. It's like you'd go into Chicago or Toronto or something, and there'd be like a guy just sitting in a folding chair on a blank stage talking about himself. It's very what it is. It would be kind of, actually. They probably were inspired by like beatnik theater kind of stuff when they came up with this and the final 2 episodes of the series.
And Misato asks him what Kaworu is. What does she answer with? Like Ritsuko.
Oh, that's her. Ritsuko's like, I think he might be the final messenger. So she drops the title. That's basically all she says. And then
she basically says, I think he's an angel. Okay. Yeah.
I think he's an angel. He might be the final messenger, the final angel. And then Otojoy plays the I don't remember. I think it's the 4th movement or something. I don't remember which movement it is, but it's the fun part. It's the drink milk love life part that everyone remembers. Yeah, and it's just an explosion of emotion and feeling, and the whole episode is directed in such a way that like every little thing that's happened up to this point has just kind of been building to this climax, this operatic climax of musical explosion that everyone will experience. And it's full of love, and it's full of hate, and it's full of every emotion you could possibly think of, because this song is amazing. This is probably one of the best pieces of classical music of all time, I think. In terms of especially excuse me, especially in terms of just pure id, just the total emotional overload, I think.
It's honestly incredible that Ono could hire Beethoven himself to compose this for Evangelion.
He composed the score of Evangelion. He hired Beethoven and the guy who wrote Jesus Mein Best Billets or whatever. I don't know who wrote that song. All the classical pieces. I can't believe he resurrected them and cloned them in his...
Of course.
In his core factory, where all the parents of the Evangelion, of the children in Shinji's class, are kept.
Anyway, Kaworu's angel name is Tabris, right?
Yes, which I think is the angel of free will.
The angel of free will, huh? Okay, that's kind of interesting because, Kaworu is the one who is the angel that broke from his purpose as an angel to allow humanity to survive and do something irrational for them, which I think is like really interesting. So I think that's partly why Kaworu says he was born to meet Shinji, because it's like he helped him make the decision as well to save humanity, that it's worth saving. So it's like, I was born to meet you because now it feels like Kaworu has never really had any interactions with any people, like any real interactions. Like he was probably isolated for years or something, and I think that he is grateful to have made a human connection with somebody else.
For sure.
And so that's kind of like, it's given him a new perspective on life and others.
100%.
And he talks about that with the AT field, right? Like the AT field is, and what it represents.
Yeah, he explains what the AT field is. Isn't it weird how personable Kaworu is and how not personable Rei is? Like they have totally different personalities, despite being the same, quote unquote. It's weird. It's interesting.
It must be because of like, Kaworu is more of the Adam kind of figure, who is more angel than I think Rei is. Like he's more angelic than Rei is, I think, as an angel.
I'm not sure why, but yeah, I just
Rei,
think it's cool.
Like Kaworu has the soul of Adam. I'm pretty sure is the thing. So he has a personality that has come already, whereas Rei has to develop personhood through experience. So that's kind of I think one of the big differences.
Now we're getting into the weird Evangelion lore, where we're just having
the lore
debates all the time of like, what soul does Rei have? Is it the soul of Lilith? Were Pen's feet made by Gendo when he was cloning Rei? Like, I think silliness.
I think Rei has her own soul that she's created herself through experience, because that's part of what it's the lore with dolls, right? Like dolls develop souls through experience, and I think that's kind of what it's supposed to be.
I think they say like there was no souls left in the chamber of guff when we made her. It's something stupid like that.
But... yeah, she's developed her, because the idea is in Japanese culture that a doll, it's like a wives' tale, that like dolls would develop souls through having been played with often enough. And so the idea is that something without a soul you can create a soul through just having it have experiences with others. And I think that's kind of what that explains why Rei is so much colder and distant, but also why she kind of develops one and becomes more of a person over time. Rei too.
Maybe Lawrence Keel was just like a great dad, unlike Gendo. Like maybe Lawrence Keel went to all the soccer games. He put Kaworu in piano school, and he listened, and he was just really connected with him. Much more so than Gendo was with Rei. So
it would be fascinating to see what Kaworu, what Ano or the crew could come up with for like what Kaworu's life was before this. The rebuild would have been an opportunity to have like shown a glimpse of that, but
rebuild would have been a great opportunity to do little stupid things like that we want to see, like more Kaworu, more all of that, but instead it's just a like
I could like imagine like he grew up in this white chamber with like a bookshelf and like a piano, and that's it, or something. Like it's just kind of, that's what it reads to me as.
Cyborg AI buddy K22. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
But yeah, Kaworu has powers. He is a master of unlocking. He can unlock doors with his mind.
He's telekinetic, apparently.
Yeah. He can float.
He can float. So. He has an AT field. He
can take over and the units. AT field, by the way, is like a metaphor for how it's basically the spines of like a hedgehog and the hedgehog's dilemma. It's like the walls that we put up that push each other away, and
there's a reason it's called the absolute terror field. It's in the opening, isn't
we're too afraid to get closer to each other, and so therefore we put up walls and things like that, which has to do with that whole that idea of like partly the self-hatred is that wall, like the AT field is that sort of thing where you push people away because of your attitude and your general your flaws and all these problems that you're going through. And that's kind of like, that's what it's a metaphor for in part. And when you love yourself or accept love from others, you're lowering that AT field. That's the idea, is that you're lowering your walls.
Yeah. It's a metaphor. It is a metaphor.
It is a metaphor.
Literal. It is not literally powered by your self-hatred, so don't try and use your self-hatred to create a
Unless
barrier.
Unless you're Gendo in the manga.
Monsters, please. This podcast does not endorse that.
I love Gendo in the manga, by the way, because during the events of EOE, he creates like AT fields. He gets like magic powers because of the atom embryo in his hand, and he's just like, I'm blocking bullets with my AT field. It's like really... it's really dumb, yeah.
Okay. All right. It's exciting, I guess. Yeah. So anyway, Shinji and Kaworu, not Kaji. Shinji and Kaworu have their little confrontation here. Absolute terror field. Kaworu finally confirms what it is. This is also like an escalation of the angels really escalate to this point because Ariel, Armisael, and then finally Kaworu all are more human and more able to interact in a human way with the pilots. Yes. So Zero, that's what I mean when like Zero is the most powerful physical angel. He's the biggest physical threat. He's destructive. He's mighty, but he's still like just a dumb animal, like most of the angels are. But then after that, they get more sophisticated and intelligent and start attacking them in ways that like technology can't deal with.
To tie this into Spider-Man, they
I didn't expect us to bring up Spider-Man twice in this episode of the podcast.
They attack his heart is the thing. The angels.
They first attack his heart.
Yeah, that's what the final set of angels ends up doing. I think Kaworu is I think Kaworu is a benevolent and good symbol, especially recontextualized by End of Eva, right? Where
Yeah.
like it seems like Kaworu had no intention of hurting Shinji and things like that, but
No, I don't think he planned like, oh, I'll get close to him and then I'll die. And
no,
he'll be
I
sad about it, and
absolutely
he won't
do
be able
not
to do anything.
do not think that was an intentional like outcome. Like he was hoping that
No.
Shinji would take that sacrifice and live his life to his fullest and be happy. Like that's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of what Kaworu was hoping, is his vision of the future.
It's clearly an aspect of the show that Kaworu hurts Shinji, because have we talked? We must have talked about this. How the last four angels, or the last four episodes rather, are the destruction of each character. So Masato, Kaji dies, and she becomes obsessed with uncovering the secrets of Sile, and she stops connecting with the kids, and then the kids lose her as a guardian. And then Asuka's destroyed because she fails as a pilot. She lost to Zeruel, and then the angel attacks her mind with Hallelujah over and over
Ariel,
again until she goes insane. Ariel. And then Rei sacrifices herself and explodes with Armisael. So it's a destruction of each one. And then this is Shinji's destruction, where he bonds and grows to love this kind, thoughtful boy, and that boy dies, and he just can't live with it. So it's really the destruction of the four main cast members, one after the other.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. Good job. Good structure. No, I think I can attribute that to you. So, good job.
Probably.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Omedetou.
Omedetou.
I think it'll be
I think it's also cool that Kaworu is effectively just a boy. Like, he has special powers, but he's really just a flesh and blood thing.
Which is, by the way, another
nothing...
Jesus parallel. Another Jesus parallel is that, like, Jesus took on humanity.
Oh, Jesus
he became
immortal?
he became immortal. Yeah. Like that's like the whole idea is that this is a form of God who became mortal, and that's another parallel. But yeah.
It is kind of unfortunate that immortal and mortal sound so similar if you say them fast enough.
Amortal, yes. He became
immortal.
A mortal being.
Yes.
But
so that
and
is
Masato is prepared to blow up the whole facility, right?
Yeah.
So
we needed a Hyuga arc for some reason. He needed to have a role in this story. It just wouldn't be complete without lots of Hyuga.
I like that Hyuga has always had this like romantic thing with Masato, right? Where
it's so random in this episode, though.
It's not. He's been actually talking with her a couple episodes, like before they were in a car together.
No, I know, but it's just like this epic confrontation between Shinji and Kaworu, and then we cut away to, "I'm okay with dying if it's next to you, though, Miss Masato." Like, okay, thanks, dude. Yeah. Like, I'm glad that's there. It's a nice little touch. It's just weirdly timed. Yeah. And then there's this weird bit where they land on this moon-like surface, and I don't know if this is supposed to be like the surface of the black moon. I think it's the other side of the black moon, because they're in the black moon already. Like, the black moon is all around the whole facility.
I think this is inside the black moon. Like, the outer shell is like the black moon, and then the inside is
the
like
inside is white.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I never realized that
it's like an Oreo.
It's like poetry. It's like Oreo. I never realized that Neo-E when they show the moon rising and all that like the headquarters was inside the moon, and that's why they're
the little pyramids like on top. It's like on the surface. That.
Yeah. So somehow they get into the moon somehow. And then Kaworu does that really cool thing where he just like flicks his eyes and opens the door to heaven, the heaven's door. They literally call it heaven's door. I'm not actually sure why they make that metaphor in universe, but it's a cool little metaphor. I guess Lilith is, in Evangelion terms, is the progenitor, some word, the progenitor of humanity, progenitor of humanity. So she's kind of the god of humanity in Evangelion. So so might as well be heaven. And Kaworu walks in, just like strolls in, and he's like, "Oh my god, why isn't Adam here?" After I had that conversation with Sile, where I said Adam was in Gendo's hand. I don't understand. And then he implies that there's some like plot. He's like, "Ah, oh, Lilith, the Lilin, I get it now. That's what they were planning." And I'm like, "What plan? What are you talking about?" There's a lot of weird dialogue here that doesn't necessarily make sense.
Well, yeah. But
Lilith.
He's realizing that the thing is that it seems like he was told to come here for a different reason, that he was going to reunite his body with Adam, because he is the soul of Adam. And so the idea is that he was going to become Adam and become a whole again. That seems to be what the plan was, or that's what he was told, barring the director's cut messing everything up. But now that Lilith is here, he realizes that if he had merged with it, then it would have caused an impact, an explosion. And this could have been an opportunity for Sele to have used that to maybe wish for instrumentality. So Kaworu is stopping instrumentality from happening, which means that Sele is going to have to use their plan B, because they have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D and everything like that. And they're going to use the Eva series.
Gendo is interfering with.
They're going to use the Eva series to merge with Unit 1 to do it instead. So, because Unit 1 is the last remnant of Lilith, really, like, or one of the remnants of Lilith. So it's the lore is very simple. It's Adam plus Lilith plus anti-AT field equals impact. That's what it is. So
Evangelion's lore is not really something that I understand and that I really especially care about, but yeah,
it doesn't super matter. It's much more character based. Yeah, who gives a...
It's a much more character driven show, which I'm glad about.
But yeah, in terms of the lore, it's Lilith plus Adam plus anti-AT field to merge them together creates an explosion that will grant a wish to whoever wants to wish it. And the Dead Sea Scrolls predicted that instrumentality would happen, which ends up actually happening because Shinji ends up wishing for it by accident. So Sele got what they wanted, even though Shinji could have potentially wished for anything. He wished for instrumentality. So that's like a whole thing. But we'll talk about it in EOE.
Do we have to?
Discuss it in EOE. Just
must
a little
we?
bit.
I think another thing maybe is he realizes that the humans are also angels. The Lilin are part of Lilith, so they're angels too.
Right. Yeah. But the thing is that like humanity is as much of an angel as the angels are. So that's maybe a revelation. It's like that we're not different. We are the same in actuality. So.
Yeah,
and so humanity living on is not a problem, because in a way the angels did end up populating. So it's kind of like life is valuable and it has sustained at this point. So there's no point to have a conflict.
Yeah, I suppose.
Oh,
it makes my head hurt. Also, the director's cut did do one good thing in the original episode, and I checked this. Lilith doesn't have her legs for some reason when Kaworu's looking at her, even though she regrew her legs in episode 22. But in the director's cut, they fixed that, and she does have legs. So good job, Ano-san and team. And then Kaworu makes a big decision. Decides, you know what, I could do what I've been basically programmed to do, and what I instinctually want to do, and just dive at Lilith and merge with her and wipe out all of humanity. But I like humanity. I like you, Shinji. I don't want you to die. And it's a really nice little moment, nice little thing. And then they do their little avant-garde trick where they're like, aha, we have to fill another minute of time. We'll just linger on this one shot of Unit 1 holding Kaworu in her hand for like a good minute to really delay this moment. I don't know if this is as effective as the elevator scene, because I think with the elevator scene, that's like a relatable thing you can think about. Like, oh, I gotta get somewhere, and you're stuck on the elevator for like 2 minutes with someone you don't want to talk to. Maybe that's really relatable. So it's like the anxiety of it is kind of awkward. But this is just kind of like a still shot, and you're waiting for Kaworu
I
to
do
die,
think that
and
this
it's
is
kind of miserable.
this is the worst use of this technique, because this is the third time this has happened now. Because there was also Misato at the train station. Misato stands at the train station staring at Shinji.
Station? We reviewed that episode, I'm sure. When?
Yeah, this is episode 4, I believe, at the end when Shinji decides to stay. He's at the train station and he doesn't get on the train to leave, and Misato and Shinji stare at each other for like a good 50 seconds.
Oh, episode 4. Okay, no, I didn't really do notes on that one, so I was just like, I just watched every episode of this show like 4 times. When did that happen?
Yeah. It was really early on, but it was another use of the technique where it's like really long, let's hold on it for like ages. Yeah, and okay. I think this is really emotional though, but I think it is less effective. Yeah. I think it would have been fine if it was shorter by like half the time. Yeah.
You do get to listen to the Ode to Joy bridge, the bridge in Ode to Joy, so that's nice. And Shinji murders Kaworu in the most gruesome way he possibly could by squeezing him and popping his head off like a cork. So Kaworu, and so his head drops into the LCL lake beneath Lilith, and it's really sad and gruesome and kind of depressing. And I really like Kaworu, and I wish he was in the show more. But I don't know how
I have some good news for you. I have some good news for you. The Evangelion manga has him for several chapters.
But I don't really like the Evangelion manga that much.
No, I don't either. It's a double-edged sword, because Kaworu is characterized completely differently there, and I don't like it as much. So
yeah, I think Satsukawa writes these like mysterious pixie boys really well. It's Solo Gilgamesh too. He writes there's a character. He's a pixie dream boy. There's a character in Gilgamesh who's practically Kaworu in a lot of ways. So and it's really good. So
then we get Ava Unit 1 being washed, like a shot of that, and then we have Shinji. A shot of that with, I think, is it Gendo and Rei standing? I think it's Gendo and Rei standing next to each other.
Yeah, they're wearing like raincoats.
Yeah, as opposed to Gendo and Ritsuko, which was the same scene happened earlier on. I think in episode 16, I believe, with Liliel.
Yeah, it's Liliel.
And now it's
Ritsuko's
been,
like,
and now she's been replaced.
They'll find out the truth and they'll hate us forever. And Gendo's like, Soka.
Yeah, now Ritsuko's been replaced with Rei here. And then we get, so that kind of ties up that loose thread a little bit. Also, I quickly want to go back and just discuss Rei. Rei was like watching Kaworu like die, and that's Quantum Rei. And I wonder if they
is it Quantum Rei?
I wonder if they had. There's no other way she could have gotten there. Pretty much. She had no Ava unit. She can't float or whatever.
She does also watch people die. Quantum Rei is always watching people die.
Yeah, she's the Reaper of Souls, and it makes sense for Quantum Rei to be there to also make sure that Kaworu comes into instrumentality later. So that's part of how he winds up.
I don't know if that's as important, but I don't know if we need an explanation for how Kaworu appears in a magnificent LSD dream sequence, but
but it's just kind of interesting that we have Quantum Rei appear there a little bit.
I always assumed it was just the actual Rei, and she just like flew down there.
She flew down. I'm here.
I'm here. Hey guys. That makes a lot more sense that it's Quantum Rei. I never thought about that.
Yeah, she's like,
okay.
Yeah. Harbinger of death.
That's actually really cool. I always thought, like, why is Rei in this scene? That's so stupid. She just flew down there or something. But okay, no. Time traveling Rei. I accept time traveling Rei.
Yeah. So, and then Shinji's on the beach and he's talking with Misato. And Misato, as we sort of talked about beforehand, is pretty cold and distant here. She basically says, Kaworu wanted death. It's not your fault. He is an angel. He was the enemy anyway. it was cool that you killed him. And then he goes like,
get over it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
she's like,
She's like, get over it. And then he's just like, how could you be so cruel, you know,
yeah,
and whatnot.
that's really cold.
It's a, like, Shinji talks about how Kaworu was the first person that told him that he loved him, which makes more sense to be love there as well, because it was
He's the first person who ever liked me. No one's liked me before.
No one's liked you before. Yeah, that kind of gets like futzed up if you translate it the other way. But Shinji, this is what kind of makes me think that it was a bit codependent on Shinji's end, at least, is like he brings up the fact it's like, I don't miss Kaworu like for who he was. He says specifically, he focuses on the he liked me, he praised me. Like that's what's toxic. It's not that Kaworu is toxic. It's Shinji's coming at it from a toxic angle. I think it's like, this is Shinji's just not, he's not well adjusted enough to actually.
He's not well adjusted enough to have friends. He shouldn't have friends.
I think he does need friends and things like that. Or it's a good thing to have friends.
He has friends, honestly, throughout the show. I'm joking.
Yeah.
He has friends throughout the show. Ray is his friend. Asuka is his friend, even though he hates Asuka and Asuka hates him.
They're definitely friends.
Yeah.
In spite of it all.
Like circumstances are really why he doesn't have a close relationship with Misato, Asuka, Ray, Kaworu. It's not really that any of those relationships were inherently toxic in my mind. It's just that circumstances pulled them apart.
Yeah. I don't think Kaworu was being the toxic one here. I think it's mainly just Shinji approaching the relationship and the dynamic from a bad headspace. Like, it's like,
I think it's tragic. I don't think it's toxic at all.
I think it is tragic. Like, that's also what I'm trying to get to, is that it's a tragedy of circumstance, and not necessarily that Kaworu is a bad person in Shinji's life or intentionally did this or was manipulative. No. I think that Shinji, only because he's so self-hating and kind of came to the table with that at the forefront.
Well, he's desperate.
That he took kind of like bad types of things away from the dynamic at the end of the day. But it's not anybody's fault. It is circumstance, and that's like kind of just how I see it as well. Is like, it could have been even this moment, as tragic as it is, could have been more beautiful and life affirming if Shinji took it from a specific angle, right? Where it's like, it's a horrible thing that happened, but I have to live my life, and Kaworu wanted me to do that, and that's what I should do. So, like, that's sort of... And Misato is so wrapped up in her vendetta with the angels that she can't humanize the other, right, in this circumstance. And that's
I think it's more than that. I think Misato had her own tragedy. I think she had her own tragic event, that she lost her father, and that made her catatonic for like who knows how long, and her way of getting out of it was basically to ignore it.
Yeah, to push it down. And that's how she's kind of dealing with Kaji's death as well. She's dealing with grief on her own own wavelength, and she's just like, just get over it. Like, like, that's what I did. And that's what I did. And that's not I don't think Shinji needs to just get over it. And that's never what I've been saying here. I'm saying, like,
no, I know.
He needs to evaluate what he's done, forgive himself for his mistakes, realize that he's not made just mistakes. He's done a lot more good than bad, and kind of like, be more fair and kind to himself. Like, you should be kind to yourself. And that's like
all you have.
Yeah. Shinji's not kind enough to himself. Like, that's the problem. No. He's relying on other people to be kind to him for him. But he needs to look in the mirror and say, like, you're not a bad person. Like, you're a good person, and you're worth you being here. So, but
I don't know if that's what this story's about, but I do think that's the ultimate point of his character.
Yeah, the ultimate point of the character. In this story, it's about love and loss, and sort of how Shinji, how, like, again with Misato, I think Misato really drove the nail into that catatonic state that we see Shinji at the beginning of EOE. I think it was kind of her fault by accident, that it sort of, along with Kaworu, it's
bit.
everything sort of
Well,
culminating.
he can't rely on her at all in these last 5 episodes. She's destroyed.
Yeah.
Like we point out, she's destroyed by Kaji's death. She can't be there for Shinji, so she's saying stupid things to him.
Yeah, and it's
that she shouldn't be saying, and he needs to process this on his own. And she's just like, you know what? You're good because you chose to live and he chose to die, so it's fine that he died. Like, that's not what Shinji wants to hear.
It's not what Shinji needs to hear, you know, and that's
no, yeah.
It's like she should have come at it with compassion and reaffirmed what Kaworu wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, Kaworu wanted you to like live, so, and he was like, and his sacrifice was meaningful, like as in he gave himself up for you and like for us all, and we should be thankful for that. And like,
well, and beyond that,
so
beyond that, Shinji would be a sociopath if he could murder his friend by squishing him in his hand and then be like, okay, it's fine. He wanted me to have a happy life, and I'm happy now. That would be ridiculous. Like, Masato's expectations for Shinji here are not even realistic. Like, Shinji's going to need time to get over that.
Yeah.
She's just putting him down, really, is what she's doing.
What's interesting to me is that the way she's approaching it reminds me a lot of, like, how it's been described, like, culturally in Japan, how people treat other people who have gone through with tragedy and stuff. It's that whole, like, get over yourself. You have a responsibility to, you know, yada, 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 to other people. Stop caring about your own grief and whatnot and just get over it. And that's kind of, I think it's a really bad, I think that's really toxic, right? Like that sort of idea that if you're suffering and going through a lot of anguish in this moment, to then just kind of be like, you're immature and you should just be a stoic entity and like get over it, like that type of thing, like bottle it up, push it down, all that.
Yeah,
it's,
I mean, that's
it's
not
kind
even
of bad.
exclusive to Japan at all. That's very
Yeah.
That's the whole world is like that.
Unfortunately, it's like, you know, I've been doing a lot of research into this, and there's Zen Buddhist practices are like part of the foundational core of Japanese culture, and the de-emphasis of the individual and kind of the emphasizing like getting over it, letting go, like that. Those are foundational pillars to Japanese culture, which is partly why it is so, like, it can feel really cold and uncaring, because, you know, Buddhism is not meant to be used that way, but it kind of is used that way by a lot of people in Japan. So it's kind of it's used as like a excuse to dismiss other people's anguish and personhood, and it shouldn't be. But that's why it's uniquely that way. That's why I bring it up as like a Japanese thing, because people do it over here in West too. But that's more like it's not based in like the culture as much in like a very pinpointed way. I think Stoicism is very similar, like Stoicism in Greek culture, and so
the philosophy,
in philosophy, and so that's kind of where it comes from in Western culture. But it's like, you know, I think that I think a lot more people would be more willing to be there emotionally, or someone would be there emotionally for Shinji, not Misato as a character. As a character, she would not, but that like, I do think that the way that we deal with grief is like more is like a little healthier overall. I guess that's maybe a bit judgmental.
Maybe.
I'm sorry
Depends.
to any Japanese people, but
depends.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it depends, right? But I think that there's more just like
is
recognition for the individual as like going through this process.
In American culture, certainly, the individual's emphasized much more than it is in Japan.
Yeah, and there needs to be a balance with all things. I think collectivism isn't totally bad, and I don't think individuality is totally bad. There has to be a balance with things, right? Where it's like,
it's circumstantial.
Other people are important, and you have to care for others, but you also have to care for yourself and be seen as a person who is going through something, and not be perceived as irresponsible because you're sad and going through a lot as an individual. So
yeah. And to put to TLDR, Evangelion's broken our brains, and we don't know where we are. We've been talking about an episode of Evangelion for almost 2 hours. which is not a new experience, by the way, but we've never recorded it before.
This is just the day in the life. So
this is just a day in our lives. Just like 5 hour Skype conversation.
But the fact that we can have a 2-hour conversation of what is extensively a 24-minute episode is pretty remarkable.
Yes. Oh my God. We've been talking for more than 3 times as long as this episode is, actually. Wow.
You know, Ava's really dense, and this is the culmination of a lot of really dense character dynamics that have been building and culminating. And for me, this is the end of the series. I know that a lot of people really love episode 25 and 26. I think that episode 25 and 26 are very important culturally to Japan and to the art movements. Like we wouldn't have the super flat movement without episode 25 and 26. But whenever I watch the show or whenever I show new people this, I stop here. This is the ending point, and then move over to End of Ava, because to me, End of Ava takes a lot of what I really liked about episode 25 and 26 and really amplifies that to a different level. Like I think, go on.
I think what makes the most sense is to watch EOE and then watch 25 and 26, because I think EOE gives you context for what 25 and 26, because 25 and 26 just have random flashes of things happening. And
flashes to stuff that happens in EOE,
happens in EOE, and it doesn't make any sense without the context of EOE. So I think that makes the most sense. And incidentally, that is how we are going to do this podcast. We're going to do two episodes on EOE, and then we're going to do 1 episode on 25 and 26 collectively.
Yes, and so stick around for that. We also recorded, as kind of like aforementioned or mentioned throughout this whole episode, is that we recorded a bonus episode on our Patreon based on the original draft of
the Satsukawa script.
Yeah, Satsukawa's draft for episode 24. It's really funny. You guys should listen to it. So check it out on our Patreon, along with hours at this point of other content, right? So yeah.
With all the bonus episodes put together, you can get 10 bonus episodes.
Yeah, we've got probably 5 hours of exclusive content on there. So that's cool.
They're about half hour each. So yeah, 5 hours. You're right.
And as for the next one, we're going to be talking about EOE, and then we're going to be talking about episode 25 and 26 as one episode. And then we'll be moving on from Ava. We're close to the end at this point.
Not forever, though. We'll probably come back to Ava at some point. Something I don't know.
Talk about the rebuild. Do commentary
on the rebuild.
No.
Just talk about the episodes again. We'll just go. Well, we didn't talk enough about episode 4. We're just gonna do the whole of episode 4. Alex forgot about the long shot scene, so might as well rewatch it. No. But we are interested in what you guys want to hear about next, even though, because we're a bi-weekly podcast, we're not going to be done for another 2 months, or month and a half. But so if you want to vote on what we cover next, I think we're going to do FMA or something. But beyond that, if you want to vote, that's on our Patreon.
FMA makes a lot of sense to do. But if you want something else, let us know. Maybe we'll do it after. Maybe we'll do it before. So just say something. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you all for listening
to this 2-hour episode of 2Ks, 1 episode.
1 hour for each gay.
1 hour for each gay. 2 hours, 1 episode. God, my brain's broken.
Thank you, and you guys have a
Check
great
out the Patreon.
one.
Have a great day. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.